The Unseen Scars, Episode 1, The Welcome Parade. They called him a hero. Sergeant James Langston returned home with a chest full of medals and a back full of ghosts. The town threw a parade. Flags waved. Children cheered. Fireworks painted the sky. But inside James, the war had never ended. The banner read, "Welcome home, Sergeant Langston." But all he saw was smoke. In his mind, the confetti fell like ash. The brass band marched like boots on sand. And when the first firework exploded, he was back there. In Kandahar. Fire. Screaming. A Humvee flipped. James whispers. "McCaffrey. Garcia, get down." But they were already gone. A moment frozen in fire. Later that night, the mayor shook his hand. Smiled wide. Said, "We're proud of you, son." But James couldn't answer. Because in his head, someone was still screaming. And it was his voice. The parade ended. The crowd left. But the war didn't. James began to walk at night. Quietly. Streets empty. House lights flickering like tracer rounds. He mapped the town like a mission zone. Checking perimeters. Counting escape routes. His front yard became a checkpoint. His bed. A foxhole. When he slept, the dreams came. The Humvee on fire. McCaffrey screaming. And always. The whistle. That same whistle that meant, go. Only now, it meant, relive. His wife tried to reach him. He flinched at her touch. Flinched like it was shrapnel. She cried in the kitchen while he cleaned his already clean rifle. His son asked, "Dad, why don't you smile anymore?" And James. He didn't know how to answer. On the day of his commendation, he didn't show up. He was sitting in his garage, surrounded by boxes he hadn't unpacked since deployment. In one was a melted piece of a helmet. McCaffrey's initials still scratched into the side. James held it like a relic. Like an anchor. Then he wept. For the first time. Since the war. That was the night he called someone. A vet like him. They didn't talk about the war. Just, about pain. About how to carry it without letting it carry you. Recovery isn't a parade. It's not loud. It doesn't wear medals. It's quiet. Slow. Invisible. But it begins when you admit. The war came home with you. Not all scars bleed. Some echo. Please like and share, subscribe or follow. Thank you. The Unseen Scars Episode 2. Her name was Eliza. Her name was Eliza. I never met her before the war. Just a girl. 8, maybe 9. Pulled from the rubble with half her face missing, but her eyes. Her eyes begged me not to leave. And I didn't. I stayed. I tried. But there wasn't enough time. That night, I stitched up 3 other men. Lost 2. But it was her face I kept seeing. Her whisper. Don't go. Now I'm home. My girlfriend asks how my day was. I say, fine. But I haven't slept in 3 nights. Because Eliza keeps calling. Not from memory. From the hallway. She opens doors. Turns on lights. Sometimes, I catch her in the mirror. Always silent. Always watching. I know she isn't real. But part of me wishes she was. Because in her eyes, I see the last thing I failed. I went back to the hospital last week. Not as a medic. Just, a visitor. They let me hold a newborn. He cried. And I froze. In my head, I was back there. In the dust. Holding Eliza. Watching her go still. My therapist says it's displacement trauma. That I'm giving a name to my guilt. That Eliza might not even have been real. But she was. I remember her hand. Dirt under tiny fingernails. A pink shoelace. That's not something you imagine. I started volunteering at a shelter. Serving food. Cleaning cots. There's a girl there named Eliza. Same age. Same quiet stare. She asked if I was a doctor. I said no. She asked if I ever saved someone. I didn't answer. Just smiled. And she smiled back. For the first time in a year. I felt warm. Some wounds don't bleed. Some girls don't die. And some ghosts aren't meant to haunt you. They're meant to remind you you're still human. I still see her sometimes. The first Eliza. In mirrors. In dreams. But she's not angry anymore. She just watches. Like she's making sure I'm okay. Sound, soft wind, light piano melody begins. I tell my girlfriend now when I wake up screaming. I tell her about Eliza. I tell her about the girl I couldn't save. And the one I still can. Her name was Eliza. She died in my arms. Like and share, subscribe or follow. Thank you. The Unseen Scars. Episode 3, The Taste of Dust. I used to live for flavor. Every dish was a story. Garlic in oil. Wine reductions. Fire-kissed meat. But now, everything tastes like dust. I came back from the war with medals, burns, and a recipe notebook soaked in sand. I thought cooking would bring me back. Back to myself. But it didn't. I opened a restaurant. Small place. Bright walls. Family tables. I poured everything into it. But no one came back after the first week. They said the food was bland. Said the sauce was heavy. Said the lamb reminded them of iron. And they were right. Because every time I cook, I remember the field kitchens. MREs and powdered broth. Sand in my mouth. Blood on my gloves. And I can't taste joy anymore. Only survival. Sometimes I overseason. Sometimes I burn things. Not by accident. I just want to feel something. I screamed at a waitress last month for breaking a plate. Not because of the mess. But because the crash sounded like the IED that took Harris. I sit alone at closing time. Drink black coffee that tastes like wet soil. Listen to the hum of the fridge like it's distant choppers. And I write new menus I'll never serve. I keep a letter from my squad leader in my wallet. Blood-stained. Folded twice. He said, "You were the only thing that tasted like home out there." I read it when the ghosts come. When I can't sleep. When I wake up smelling diesel instead of rosemary. There's this homeless vet who eats behind my restaurant. I started leaving food out. He always says thanks. Last week, he knocked. Asked for water. Said, "You still cook like a soldier." I didn't know if that was a compliment or a curse. But then he smiled. Told me it was the first meal that didn't lie to him. That hit harder than any review. He comes by often now. Sits. Eats in silence. And sometimes, we talk. About the sand. About the rot in the air. About the way food was the only warmth left. I started cooking differently. Slower. More intentional. Not to impress. But to remember. The garlic doesn't taste like metal anymore. It just tastes sharp. That's enough. Recovery isn't about forgetting flavor. It's about trusting your tongue again. Trusting that joy can still return. One taste at a time. And maybe. That's how you feed a soul that's been through war. One small plate of peace. At a time. Please like and share, subscribe or follow. Thank you.